6 seconds is all you get to make a first impression with your resume. That's it. Have a good one. Amazing. You're that much closer to your ideal career. If you missed the mark, unfortunately, your resume is in the not now pile. But don't worry, that's where I come in to help. My name is Sho Do-won. I'm a former recruiter turned career coach and the founder of WorkHab. I've helped thousands of people just like you land their amazing new jobs. In this course, I'll teach you all the tips, tricks, and strategies to build your winning resume. Now, this is what most people think resumes are. A chronological list of your life story, a brag sheet of every single win you've ever had in your career, or a way for recruiters to get to know who you really are. But that is not the purpose of a resume. There's really only one purpose, and that purpose is to get you an interview for the specific role you're going for. You see the key word here? It's specific. I want you to start thinking about your resume as a marketing document that includes all your big wins and skills for a specific role and company. Let's say you're a recruiter and you have these three options. The first candidate brands themselves as a job seeker and they're open to any and every job out there. Another candidate is a generalist and they wear multiple hats. It's not a specialist in anything, but can do a little bit of everything. And then you got the candidate who is a subject matter expert, the SME, and has a resume specifically tailored for the role that you're recruiting for. Who would you pick? The answer is obvious. You and every recruiter out there is going to go for the SME, the subject matter expert. Because when you are specific with your target role and skills and experiences, recruiters are so much more drawn to you for that role. You may not even have to apply to the role if your personal brand is so tailored for that role. They may seek you out instead. So that's why it's imperative to make this shift. Instead of one resume for all the jobs you're going to go for, I want you to start creating tailored resumes for each specific role. Next up, you're going to learn what recruiters are really looking for. The key to crafting a winning resume that attracts recruiters is to think and act like a recruiter. In a typical day, they're hiring for many different roles and teams. They're working with hiring managers who all have their own working styles, and they're reviewing dozens of resumes. This is why the first impression is everything when it comes to your resume. And as I mentioned before, you only get those first 6 seconds. In that time, recruiters are going to make sure your resume is ATS friendly, has a professional look and feel, and highlights the right skills and experience for the role. AKA what they're really looking for is, can you do the job? If the answer is a definitive yes, amazing, you're going to get an interview, and that's what I want for your resume. To do that, we got to talk about ATS first, and we'll get into that next. So let's break down what this applicant tracking system, the ATS, really is. Because a lot of candidates have this fear that ATS is this big, scary thing that'll reject resumes left and right. But the reality is, most resumes are still reviewed by human. The ATS is just a tool that helps recruiters and HR stay organized with all the resumes they get every single day. So when someone applies on the company website or job board, the ATS takes that information and puts it into the right categories that helps recruiters do their job. The only time it becomes a problem is when the ATS cannot read certain information because of how it's formatted. Here are examples of what not to do. Adding in headshots and different graphics, multiple columns, adding in fancy fonts. All of these mess with the ATS and makes it difficult to parse through information. Now, you're probably wondering, Sho, I know what not to do, but what should I do? In the next video, I'll give you my go-to resume template. There's no one perfect resume, and a lot of different templates are effective and can make a great impression. With that said, this is my go-to template that I recommend for most people in their careers, and you can download it in the exercise files. It's simple, clean, easy to read, and organizes your information in a way that allows the recruiters to instantly see what you're all about. Also, notice how this is a one-page resume. I recommend keeping a resume to 1 to 2 pages if possible. 1 is ideal if you have less than 10 years of experience. 2 is okay if you have 15, and maybe 3 if you have more than 20 plus. The goal for you is to keep your resume simple and concise. And if you are a student and don't have that much professional experience just yet, don't worry. I would recommend a template like this, where you highlight your education at the top and professional and leadership experience below it. If you are a professional who's been in the same role or industry for the majority of your career, you can also choose this template that goes straight into your experiences without having a summary to highlight your main wins. For example, if I was a finance manager for the last 5 years and my next role, I was looking to be a senior finance manager, this template would work great. On the other hand, if I was a finance manager and looking to pivot my career as a data scientist, then I would look to have the template with a summary and technical toolkit all the way up to the top. It really just depends on your specific situation right now. You may have also seen or have used different software and tools like Canva or Photoshop for more creative resumes, and those can work too. Here's when you might want to do that. If you're going for a creative or marketing role and want to show off your design skills, if you have a number one company you've always want to work at and are able to brand your resume towards that company with that same colors, look, and feel, or if you're sending your resume directly to a point of contact and you know they prefer more creative resumes. But again, I personally use Word or Google Docs to create my resumes, and I recommend most of my clients to do the same. Your resume will change as you progress through your career. This is important for you to remember so you don't look for that perfect resume and craft one that is right for you right now. All right. I know you're itching now to get started working on your resume. The next part is all about my signature 1, 2, 3-step system to craft a winning resume every single time. Now that you know what the purpose of a resume is, it's time for the fun part, revamping it. Here are the 3 steps we'll do together. We'll choose your target role, we'll dissect the job description, and then finally, we're going to write your best stories. So first things first, I got to ask you, where do you want to go? AKA, what's your target role? Try to get as specific as you can. Title plus company. So let me show you how to find it on LinkedIn. Go to linkedin.com and click jobs on the top banner. In the search bar, type in your target role and the city. For example, digital marketing manager and Los Angeles. Now you'll see a list of filters at the top, which you can use to wind down your choices even more. I know there are probably a ton of roles that interest you at the moment, but for the purpose of this activity, just focus on one job description. Now that you've seen me do it, it's your turn, my friend. Go on LinkedIn, choose a target role for this course, and save the JD as a PDF. Now that you have your target role, I want to ask you, how did that go? Anything new you learned about yourself? Do you feel confident in your choice of target role? Whatever your answers are, that's perfectly okay. I know it can feel scary choosing just one role. But remember, this exercise helps you stay focused as you work on that winning resume. If you'd like to change your role in the future for whatever reason, that's perfectly okay. You can refer back to this course whenever you want to revamp. We are now done with step 1. Let's move on to step 2. Now that you know where you want to go, it's time to move on to step 2, dissect the job description. So what do I mean by dissect? For the purpose of this course, dissect means we're going to look for keywords on the JD that will help us tailor our resume. The reason we do this is because JDs are the recruiter's way of giving you a secret pass to the interview. They're essentially telling you, hey, hint, hint, we're looking for candidates who have these skills, experience, and keywords on your resume. So we want to listen to that hint and start showing off that we do. So here's the JD. We're going to dissect this one together, and I want you to do the same with the JD you saved earlier. We first want to break down the JD into the 3 most important elements: the title, responsibilities, and requirements. And now we want to look for 5 keywords and themes that pop up to us. Later on, we'll take this information and use it to help shape our own resume accordingly. Fair warning, my friend. This may seem a bit complicated when we first do this, and that is 100% normal. This is a skill that's important to build up now that you can take with you for the rest of your career and any other time you're looking for a new job. All right. So keywords and themes. We have 2 ways to do this. Option 1, we can use a free word cloud generator we found online. So putting the example JD into this generator, we get these words that appear the most based off their size: marketing, digital, analytics, social, paid, and website. And now method 2, we can use the eye test, which I personally prefer. We want to look out for words that repeat themselves, technical skills that are critical for the role, and industry-specific themes. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here, but for me, these are the ones that I see repeating themselves or crucial for the role. Website traffic, paid media, SEO, SEM, marketing analytics, and events. The reason this exercise is so crucial is because if you know what the recruiters are looking for, you can be who they hire. Now that we've done this together, it's your turn. Press pause and look for those 5 keywords and themes in your own JD. Once you're done, I'll see you next where we talk about step 3. We are now at step 3. With your 5 keywords from the last exercise, it's now time to link it to your own experience that you want to highlight on your resume. And we'll do that with an activity. So first, I want you to take out a scratch piece of paper, fold it in half horizontally, right in the middle. Grab a pen and draw 5 horizontal lines across the page. Next, take those 5 keywords from the last exercise and write each in its own individual box on the left. So using the last JD as an example, I would write website traffic, paid media, SEO, SEM, marketing analytics, and events. And on the right, I want you to answer the following questions for each keyword. What project did I use this particular skill? What was my specific role in this project? What was the impact from this project? These are the responses that you'll highlight on your resume. And one thing to remember here, these skills and stories do not have to come from your main experience. These can also be transferable skills from your side or complementary projects that you did throughout your career. Let me give you an example from one of my amazing clients. He was a high school teacher and in education for his entire career, but he wanted to transition into a project manager role for a tech startup and thought he didn't have the right experiences. But after doing this exercise, that's when he realized just how much PM experience he was doing in his day-to-day job. He managed different stakeholders like teachers and parents. He managed deadlines around curriculums and project plans, and he used different CRM tools to stay organized. You see how all of these are project manager activities? And guess what he's doing now? He's a project manager for an edutech company and loving it. I so want that for you too. So coming back to the example we've been working on together, let's connect our skills to the job description. We have marketing analytics on our left, and on our right, we are answering these 3 questions. For question 1, our client analyzed newsletter metrics, demographics, and website traffic using Google Analytics. And he would use that data to make content recommendations to editorial staff. As a result, the team was able to increase the open rate of emails by 3x in a span of 90 days. So now that you've seen that example, I want you to think about all the great impact that you've made and conceptualize it with numbers. This is going to be such a game changer for you. Download this activity from the exercise files and get started today. This is how you transform your general resume into a subject matter expert resume. You'll see a real life example in the next video. A pop quiz. Do you remember the one thing recruiters are really looking for on your resume? It's, can you do the job? If the answer is yes, you're going to get an interview, and that's my goal for you. When recruiters are thinking, can you do the job? What they're really doing is they're scanning your resume for these core elements. A crafted summary that fits the JD, the right hands-on experiences relevant for the role, soft, technical, and transferable skills, and side hustles or other projects that prove you can do the job. So let's look back at the example JD and see a resume tailored for that role. Meet Alex Miller, and let's examine his winning resume. Naturally, a recruiter will read a resume from top to bottom. They'll spend time at the top and ask themselves, does this person seem like a good fit to continue reading? This is where a summary at the top makes a huge difference. Write 2 to 4 lines that show the value you bring to this role and align it with the keywords from the JD. Notice how Alex bolds his title, calls out his specific experiences, and includes metrics to add to that wow factor. Then moving down, we see the list of his technical skills and highlighting some that were again listed in the JD. With all of this at the top, this makes it easy for the recruiter to immediately identify the main value he brings without scrolling further. Then we go into the professional experience. This is the star of your resume and the biggest section, taking up about 70% of it. He lists out relevant projects for the role and focuses on the impact made with numbers. He also categorized the bullet points based off those 5 keywords. Now that you've seen his resume, put yourself in the recruiter's position. Would you interview Alex for the role? I really hope so, because that's what I want for your resume as well. Let's go one step further and break down this resume example. We'll get into why this is a winning resume and how to make one for yourself next. There's 4 main parts to this based off the resume template that I recommend, and it goes like this. Name and contact information at the top, summary and technical toolkit, the star of your resume professional experience, and we finish with education and other. I encourage you to hit pause and download the resume example as we'll break each part down throughout this chapter. Alright, so let's move on to name and contact information. I recommend having your name as the biggest font in your resume. We want this to be bold and easily recognizable on your document. Now moving on to your contact information, for your address, simply putting your city and state or country works. I see a lot of resumes with their full addresses listed at the top, and to be honest with you, it's just not necessary and can possibly be a bit of a safety concern. No one needs to know that upfront. One thing I will call out for your address is that if you are thinking about moving to a new city or even abroad to a new country, I actually recommend you to list that new city on your resume. You just have a better chance of getting an interview if you have the same city as a company and you can further explain your situation in the interview. Then we have your phone number, email address, and of course, LinkedIn URL. I recommend having a professional email address with just your name, and the same goes for your LinkedIn URL. The standard will have your name and a random collection of numbers, but you don't really need all that. If you don't know how to change your URL, you can easily make that switch throughout your profile, as you see here. Now that you feel good about your name and contact information up at the top, let's get into your summary and technical toolkit next. Now moving on to summary, most candidates don't actually include one. It's not always necessary, but I recommend it to most of my clients. These are the times when I think it's especially important for you to have a professional summary. If you're making a career pivot or change into a new role or industry, if you're coming from a non-traditional background, or if you have a resume that may have a career break and you want to address that up front. Even if those situations don't apply to you, I still recommend most of my clients to have a summary. So what should be included in this? This is where you want to highlight your personal brand as a subject matter expert and share your current or target title, big wins, and metrics. You know the saying, dress for the job you want, not the role you have? That's the same principle that applies to your summary. Write about your experiences that are relevant for the new role that you want. Notice how Alex bolds digital marketing director, so the recruiters can immediately see that he's branding himself for the role they're recruiting for. And many of the wins listed are tied back to those 5 keywords he found when he dissected the job description. And then we go to the technical toolkit. And this should ideally have some of the hard skills that were listed in the JD to show you have the necessary skills to do the job. Even if the role you're going for is not outright technical, for example, business development or customer success, it's still a good opportunity to list out the tools and software you have experience with that can show you're good at picking up new skills and tools. And now, there you have it. You have your summary and technical toolkit. Let's move on to experiences next. Now we are at the professional experience, and this is the star of your resume. This is what most recruiters will examine and will bring up in your interviews as well. The reason for that is they want to see if you can do the job. And the best way to prove that is through your experience. You want to ensure it's easy to see your current and previous titles, name of the company, and dates you worked there, and list out your roles in chronological order, most recent at the top. I recommend a few lines to summarize your role and highlight some of the key skills and projects you worked on before deep diving into your bullet points. This is optional, but I think another nice add is to break up your project experience and categorize them into the keywords you found on the job description. Notice how Alex's uses SEO and paid media campaigns, marketing analytics, events and partnerships, all found from dissecting the JD, and his best stories are written under each. And while these categories are a nice touch, it's really the bullet points that will make or break your resume and decide if you get that interview. Because the best resumes have bullet points that tell stories that showcase value and impact. So many candidates make the mistake of writing bullet points only talking about what they were responsible for, participated in, helped with. But the best bullet points are more than just what you're assigned to do. They're more about the impact and value you brought to the organization. Here is a simple formula that I recommend that will showcase that value. Action verb, situation, impact. For the action verb, you want to include past tense for past projects and present tense for ongoing projects. Next, moving on to the situation, this is where you describe your role in the project. And finishing it off with the impact, this is where you include the result of the project with metrics and numbers. Check out the exercise files for a list of my favorite action verbs that can help you get started writing bullet points that sell. So you can turn bullet points from responsible for updating sales pages and tracking metrics for the website to increase web traffic by 110% by establishing organic content marketing strategy and tracking analytics for 13 million visitors per month. You see the difference there? It's all about your bullet points and how you sell yourself. And now you know exactly how to do it. Let's move on to our last step, education. And finally, at the bottom, we have education. Keep in mind, if you're a student or a recent graduate, it's okay to still have education up at the top, especially if you're building up your professional experience. And you can include your extracurriculars, volunteer, project work, relevant classes and awards. But for more experienced professionals, I recommend moving education all the way to the bottom. Because remember, your professional experience should be the main star of your resume. For education, you should include any of your degrees, and you can also include other relevant educational courses like boot camps or online programs. This section can also be a place to include some other skills and facts about yourself, like different languages, awards, and interests. There's no right or wrong answer to what your interests are, but I think it adds a personal touch to your resume that can often lead to new conversations in your interviews. That wraps up education and additional information, and now you have a winning resume from top to bottom. Notice that we talked about what you should include on your resume, but now let's discuss what you should not include. Keep in mind this will vary based on the company and country, but this applies to the majority of candidates. Do not include any overly personal information up at the top. You do not need your full address, social security number, credit card information, none of that. Do not add any photos or graphics. Photos and headshots often lead to bias in the recruitment process and just better for your resume to speak for itself. Do not include references at the bottom. Recruiters will ask for that while you're closer to an offer. And finally, do not add any generic characteristic traits and soft skills. Things like hard worker, detail-oriented, good people skills. All of these are amazing skills, of course, but everyone can write them down. Remember, you want to include your specific skills for the new role that you want. All right, I know that was a lot, but we've officially gone through the resume breakdown. I bet your resume looks very different now. Let's keep the momentum going with what you should do now with your winning resume. You are officially done with this course. I want to congratulate you for moving that much closer to having a winning resume that lands you the amazing opportunities that you deserve. Hope you learned some good stuff along the way, but more important than just learning and taking notes, I hope you took action and made real changes to your resume. And now that you're all wrapped up, this is the one last thing I need you to remember. Revising your resume should not be a one and done type of activity. I recommend you to update your resume every 6 months or so, even if you're in a job that you enjoy. And a bonus tip from me, keep a folder of your big wins in your current role that you can add to your resume so you always have a fresh and relevant one. And with that, that's all for me this time around, but I hope we can get connected again real soon. Send me a message on LinkedIn and let me know how you enjoyed this course. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at WorkApp, where I post daily career videos. I'm so excited to see where you end up next with your winning resume. Until next time.